Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5s. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Taylor Swift The Eras Tour, number 2 would be The Exorcist Believer, number 3 would be Paw Patrol The Mighty Movie, number 4 would be Saw X, and number 5 would be The Creator. And of course, I got all 5 of my predictions right because it was pretty simple. A lot of you also got your predictions right as well, so congratulations on that. All of you predicted yours correctly and didn't wait until like yesterday or Friday to do it, so thank you for that. I did see someone try to predict and I don't have the name, I should have gotten it, but someone tried to predict that The Blind would make it into the top 5, and you know what, I have to admire the commitment to like, well, maybe, it's been surprising everyone the last couple times, so not a bad idea at all, but unfortunately didn't get your prediction right, but I can see where you were maybe thinking that. And I also saw some people thinking that maybe Paw Patrol and Exorcist would switch, and we'll talk about how The Exorcist did, but first we should just dive right on in to how good Taylor Swift The Eras Tour did this weekend. So of course, it was already kind of being talked about beforehand with the pre-sale stuff, like, yeah, this is going to shape up to be like one of the highest opening weekends, not just of this year, obviously it would be, but also just for the month of October for any concert film ever. And yes, it has opened with $97 million this weekend, and there's no worldwide totals as far as I could find, so this is purely just domestic. But right now, yes, it is not only the best opening for a concert film, the farthest the numbers.com would go to was like Hannah Montana Best of Both Worlds. It had an opening weekend 66 million higher than that one, so it's the best opening by a wide margin, which kind of goes to show how much of a behemoth the Taylor Swift momentum is here, as far as the fandom and the pure excitement to go see anything that she's putting out, as far as a concert or an album or a movie in this case. Now makes you wonder how her directorial debut is going to go with Searchlight, the one that was previously announced, but also it is the highest grossing concert film domestically already. It already has done that. It is 24 million over the entire run of the Justin Bieber Never Say Never concert film, if you remember that one and the Hannah Montana one actually came out. So yeah, we already kind of knew it was going to make a big splash just by the pre-sale announcement, but now that we're actually here, it is kind of incredible, and yeah, I know we've all seen the TikTok videos and Twitter videos of people running up to the screen, and like similar to a concert vibe where people will get out of their seats, maybe try to get as close to the stage as possible, which may be a little goofy to watch for like a movie theater since she's not actually there, but and it's easy to make fun of that and like, oh, poor theater workers, blah blah blah, but there is a little bit of like, well, it is acceptable because it's a concert movie. That's kind of what you're there for. I do wonder about the theaters playing next to it, but hopefully it wasn't too bad or anything like that. People having a good time, funding the movie theaters, making sure they don't go bankrupt. I can't shit on that. You know what I mean? This is fun for her fans as well. It is also the highest October opening weekend as of right now, of course, because we are doing the 3-day one and we don't have the official numbers that would come out on Monday, which usually doesn't bump it up too wildly, but in this case it is 1 million over the opening weekend number for Joker, which previously was the highest October opening weekend. So I'm thinking that when the official numbers come out, it'll still probably be just a smidgen higher than Joker. I just have a pretty strong feeling that the power of Taylor Swift right here, is enough to do that, and on a budget of allegedly, according to Wikipedia, 10 to 20 million, let's assume it's the highest one, 20 million. They have already quadrupled it, 20, 40, 60, they've already quadrupled it on their way to make 100 million, which would be 5 times that budget, which is amazing, good on them. So we already knew this was going to happen, though. It's kind of crazy to see all these numbers because, yeah, like it's kind of unheard of that a concert film, kind of like we've seen some concert movies, either like a stand-up comedy or like a musical act, like, make some waves before, but nothing to this level. It's kind of amazing, What's not so amazing is number 2, which is The Exorcist Believer, dropping a little over 50%, just a little bit under 60% as well. So like right in the middle. I don't think it was exactly 55, might have been just a little bit over that. But yeah, it did not hold over too well, and we are still in the month of October. Halloween is right around the corner, so I'm not saying this is going to just drop drastically, because I'm sure there'll still be people that'll be like, well, it's the spooky season, let's go see a horror movie, blah blah blah. We still have 2 weeks until FNAF comes out, so that's not even that's not even too immediately around the corner. But yeah, it only made 11 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of 44 million. So it's 3 million over the domestic run for Exorcist the beginning. So now it's 186 million behind the original. It's looking like that's not going to happen. It's not going to outgross the original movie, which good. Worldwide, it is only bumped up to 84 million. So it still needs 344 million until the original. So this movie at least has the title of highest grossing Exorcist film that isn't the first movie. So there's that, you know, there's a record for you, Blumhouse, and it was able to now double its $30 million budget, and it needs only 6 million until they can triple it. So there you go. But as we kind of talked about last weekend, it's good for just this movie, but as far as justifying the $400 million price tag on the entire rights, as far as making a trilogy of Exorcist movies, this kind of turnout isn't the best thing that they could have asked for. You know what I mean? So it makes you wonder, like, what are they gonna go forward with these other two movies? Are they gonna stop at 2, or are they gonna just stop completely? What do we? I mean, it's showing here that, you know, there is some kind of audience that will see it and double a 30, like a moderately budgeted movie. You know what I mean? But it just makes you wonder, maybe the lasting impact. You know, maybe they'll stop because it's like, well, you know, it's never going to justify how much we spend for the rights, so to hell with this. I don't know if that'll be their mindset or not. It's just, but especially, you do have to factor in at this point the critical panning of this. It's not like Halloween versus Halloween Kills' critical reaction, where Halloween 2018 was mostly kind of positive and it made a lot of money, and then Kills was like the nosedive of like, oh my god, you know, critics really trashed on it, and some fans didn't really care for it, and it made its money, you know, with the same day, you know, theater and Peacock kind of release. It still made its money that way, but they were still like, well, you know, we're 2 films into this trilogy now, we can't stop. They might have a chance to just stop with this. I don't know. Totally up to them, though. And I have no idea. You know, they probably will just move forward because, you know, they made the announcement they can't stop. Let's move on to number 3, which is Paw Patrol, the mighty movie, still doing pretty well for the spooky season month, surprisingly, making 7 million, adding to a domestic total of 49 million. It has outgrossed the original film's domestic run by 9 million, so that's really great. Worldwide, it is sitting at 126 million, so 25 million away from the original film's worldwide run. So still have a little ways to go with that one, but still, just looking at the worldwide number, this movie also having a budget of 30 million, similar to Exorcist Believer, it has quadrupled that $30 million budget now that it's crossed over 126 worldwide. So, you know, it still has a ways to go until it outgrosses the original film worldwide, but I'm thinking it'll get there. You know, at least by the end of this month, it'll get enough to bump by. It may even be next week. Who knows? But yeah, Paw Patrol, the big hit that maybe Blumhouse wishes they had. Even though, I know I say that, but I think Exorcist Believer really had a lot riding on it to try to recapture what Halloween did back in 2018, and you can't really say that it did, you know what I mean? Paw Patrol doesn't really have those expectations. Number 4, we have Saw X, making 5 million, adding to a domestic total of 41 million. It is finally domestically outgrossed Jigsaw by 3 million, and now needs 4 million until it outgrosses Saw 3D, which is also Saw 7, the final chapter. So it's outgrossing some of the, like, weaker, you know, Spiral, Jigsaw, and now also the one that people said was definitively the worst, you know, the 7th movie. It's about to do that, which is exciting. It's good to see, and especially if they are going to move forward with a couple more Saw films, you know, it's good to know that this kind of movie is what fans are kind of like supporting. Like, I hope people take note. This is what we kind of want to see, this kind of quality, you know, this kind of storytelling with Saw. So hopefully Lionsgate and company, you know, really factor that in. Worldwide, it is now sitting at 64 million, which is only 5 million off until it outgrosses Saw 6. So still chugging its way along. It still hasn't been able to get to the highs of where this franchise has been before. But as far as, you know, it's been a couple years since they've made a true kind of Saw movie with Tobin Bell. And, you know, if you want to count in how long since Tobin Bell's had like a pretty substantial role, I guess since Saw 3, because all the other times it's kind of like supporting cameo appearances. So they've got to kind of work themselves back up, but because of the solid word of mouth on this, and people, you know, the budget's pretty low on this, they're able to make their money back. You know, I think they're on a really good path here. Number 5, we have The Creator, not on a good path, making 4 million, adding to a domestic total of 32 million. It is behind Godzilla by $168 million, and worldwide it is sitting at $79 million, so it's $1 million off from getting past the initial production budget of $80 million, but they still, in order to be considered a success, they still need to double that. So, and as far as Gareth Edwards' other films, it still needs $450 million until it outgrosses Godzilla. It'll always have the rank of, it was able to outgross Monsters, but these other movies have too, and these are now the IPs and the creator isn't, so really big uphill battle here. I really do feel bad for this, because I did enjoy this, and I can understand where some people are like, oh, it wasn't really for me, you know, all these other opinions. It's fine. It doesn't bother me all that much if some people didn't care for this movie, and I know some people are like kind of immediately crying like, oh, it's the death of original cinema, there's nothing original anymore. And it's like, that's not completely true. You just got to find where those movies are, and a lot of the times those movies get swept under the rug, blah blah blah, all this other stuff. You just need to find them. They're not ceasing original ideas. It's just, it's getting harder to make bigger budget ones. And there was a part of me that was hoping that this could do well, just so we could see more bigger budget kind of ideas, just bold ideas from directors who have proven they can do it, you know, instead of trying to work it all the way back up again. I don't like the idea of like, well, you can only make one of these if you've done like a couple favors for the studio, like you directed Rogue One for us, okay, why don't we do this? You know what I mean? Because that's kind of the vibe I got from this project. Like, okay, Gareth Edwards, you did Rogue One for Disney, and you know, this is a Fox movie, also Disney, like, okay, we can do this for you. You know, it kind of reeks of that kind of mentality, and I just wish it was more common that we could get bigger budget, kind of big original ideas. But it's not the death of these things, and there is a chance with all these other, you know, successes that we have seen that we can maybe continue to work up. And I know some, like I said, because of the divisive nature around some of the reactions of this, some people are just like, yeah, we want original ideas, but only if they're good. It's like, okay, yeah, snarky Twitter response. So I get it, you know, I don't think this is like the true death of original cinema, don't get me wrong, but I do wish just for bigger budget ideas, you know, it will definitely make certain studio heads like pause, like, well, you know, the creator didn't do well, you know, these bigger things still don't do all that well. Sorry, rant over. I don't know if any of that made any sense. Let's move on to number 6, which is the same as last week, A Haunting in Venice. You know, it's still nowhere near doubling that $60 million budget, but it's inching along, you know, and that's all you can really hope for at this point. It made $2.05 million, which adds to a domestic total of $38 million, and now it is $7 million behind Death on the Nile. If this movie can stick around all the way through Halloween, like still kind of cling kind of near in the middle here, and just gather enough money to at least outgross Death on the Nile, that would be so cool. Worldwide, it is bumped up to $106 million, so $24 million away from Death on the Nile. It's inching, and really what it really needs is $14 million more dollars to at least double its $60 million budget. So maybe, you know, cross your fingers, everyone. Number 7 is The Blind, making $2.02 million, adding to a domestic total of $13 million. I still have not gotten a production budget on this thing, and once again, I've still not watched the trailer for this, so I can't give a rough estimate of what this budget could be. But still, like, it's kind of amazing that this movie is still here for a Fathom event to kind of make a splash 2 weeks ago, and then it kind of sticks to the same spot the following week, and then now it's still clinging on. It didn't drop off completely. Like, that's kind of impressive. I'm assuming the budget must be pretty low, so maybe a $13 million domestic total is pretty good for this movie. I can only assume the best, you know, which, you know, congrats to the team. Unless this movie is awful or something, then then I might pause. Let's move on to number 8, which is The Nun 2, making $1.6 million, adding to a domestic total of $83 million. So it is $1 million off from outgrossing the domestic run of Annabelle. Worldwide, however, it is now sitting at $257 million, so that is $1 million over the worldwide run of Annabelle, and now needs $48 million until Annabelle Creation. Usually when it comes to like the Conjuring series, at least with The Nun 2's run, it's like it'll outgross a movie domestically first, and then it'll outgross it worldwide, and then it'll be the same movie just crossing over. So it's interesting to see it switch over to now worldwide is doing that, unless I'm just confusing myself. That could also be it. Let's move on to number 9, which is The Equalizer 3, making $960,000. We're out of the millions. Once again, it's one of those weekends, but that adds to a domestic total of $90 million, $12 million off from the original film and the sequel. But worldwide, we're just getting a little closer, sitting at $176 million, which, by the way, it's already doubled its $70 million budget, $36 million over that, but it needs $16 million now until it outgrosses the original and sequel. So yeah, it's just, Similar to A Haunting in Venice, it's inching closer to these other installments, and if we can just, for this one, just get even closer, that would be so cool. If it's still here next weekend, instead of dropping off the face of the earth, that'd be so cool. I would just love to see it keep going. Finally, closing out the video, number 10, Dumb Money, making $920,000, adding to a domestic total of $12.6 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $14.6 million. I doubt Pete Davidson on SNL bumped it up for him. I still don't, obviously they can't promote the movie, so why would it? And people weren't really seeing it that much to begin with, but, you know, bummer for this movie that was fine in the moment. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. And once again, there's really only one wide release as far as I know. There's some other limited ones, but I don't think, even in this case, it's enough to make a big splash at the box office top 5. So number 1, I think, will be Taylor Swift The Eras Tour once again. I think it'll have a pretty solid hold. Like, I think it'll drop off, but it'll hold enough to get to number 1 again. And then number 2, maybe a little too bold, but I'm hoping for the best here, just based off of what happened with Oppenheimer recently. I think Killers of the Flower Moon could really, you know, make some money. You know, I think Martin Scorsese gets shit on a lot by, you know, dumb Marvel fans, but I think there are a lot of supporters of him, and I think, you know, he's been in some good graces lately as far as like his public image and as far as his love for cinema and what it is he's trying to do in his career now, what he has left of it, and just being really honest and sobering with his thoughts. And that's maybe that's and just, you know, because he's a talented filmmaker, and this is a movie based off a popular true crime book, so we'll see. I think it'll be enough. And then number 3, The Exorcist Believer. Number 4, Paw Patrol The Mighty Movie. And number 5, Socks. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.